Hey guys, Scott here from the Mental Metal channel and mentalmetaldetecting.com, and today we are going to talk about the Minelab GPX 4500. You cannot get this machine anymore. Minelab does not make them, so if you're going to get one, you got to find someone that carries them used or maybe on eBay. I picked mine up on eBay several years ago. I got a steal of a lifetime on that machine. Another story for another day. But on my Patreon site, a couple people asked me if I would go over my settings, how I set up for digging in Virginia, those hunts, because the ground down there is super mineralized. They call it the red dirt, and believe me, it's red. I've never seen anything like it in some of those spots. It looks like you're on Mars, the surface of Mars. It's just completely red, crazy. But I've already shared with them some of the settings that I've collected over the years from different folks, and they're all about the same. They're in the ballpark with each other, a couple little things different here and there. But the settings I'll show you today are basically how I set up my machine for the last hunt. It's all about getting it quiet. If you can get this machine quiet, then that's the key. If it's not quiet, it'll drive you completely bonkers all day long. So the goal is to get the machine quiet. If you get it quiet, then you're good. Some days when you have more saturation in the ground, you don't need as much gain as you typically would if the ground's super dry. So you can back off the gain, and that'll help make it quiet too. So it just depends on what you are hunting at the time or the ground conditions at the time. But you have to make very fine little tweaks to this machine to get it quiet. So there's really no like one set rule all kind of setting. So it's just it is what it is. It's a pulse induction machine. It's a little bit more complicated. I am not an expert in this machine. I'll be the first to tell you. There are many other people that know how to use this machine and run circles around me. I've taken all the settings that I've learned about over the years and kind of collected them and put them in a chart. And you can see on my Patreon site that they're all pretty much in the same ballpark. So if you get one of those, if you get these settings and you go down there, or if you're hunting in mineralized ground, these should get you in the ballpark. Like I said, you just need to make a fine tune a few things. But we're going to go over what the settings I had here for DIV 53, and then you can go from there. All right, that's a lot of yapping. Let's do a lot of showing now. Let's get going. All right, guys. For starters, let's start with the front panel of toggle switches. This knob at the bottom left down here is the auto tune. This is going to be your threshold. This is your auto tune button, I should say. The first button up here at the left, top left-hand corner. This is your threshold button. This is what you tune to hear a slight hum in the background. Now, these are the settings. These toggle switches are how I set my machine up, as well as many other people do. So you have your search mode here. Right now I have it in deep. Soil timings, the second one up. I have mine in special. Ground balance, I have mine in fixed. And then the last one, if you can read that, is your coil is set for double D, I believe. Yes. Kind of looks like it's even, but it's not. It's all up. All right, so that is how I set up my settings for DAVs. I don't ever really change that. I will check. I learned about soil timings the last time I was down there, where you can check nails. If you think you have a nail, you have 3 different timings here set. You have special, I believe normal, and enhanced version. I will typically, if I hear where I think is a good signal in special, I'll bump it to neutral or normal or whatever the N stands for. And then if it still sounds the same, I'll bump it up to enhance. And if it still sounds pretty similar to the first signal, then I'm going to dig it. If it changes a lot or varies a lot, like significant, it's a good chance it's probably a nail. So I learned that from my friend Keith down there in Culpeper last go around, and it actually worked really well. It's just a pain to kind of reach on here all the time and move this button back and forth. So that's the settings for the front of the machine. Now we're going to fire it up, and it's going to get probably a little noisy in here. So just bear with me 1 second. All right, guys. So here are the settings in the back. You're going to hear a lot of noise from this thing. I'll try to keep the backlight on for you. So that's one of the settings I don't have turned on in this. So just for the record, backlight is never turned on for this to preserve battery. All right, so let's go through. So you have the function on the side and you have the setting on the right. So basically we're going to scroll the dial here. So the first thing is backlight. I don't usually have that on. It's always off. Battery test. I don't really mess with that. My volume limit is at 13. My ground balance type is set to general. I have it set at special extra. My main tune is at 49. This is where you can actually adjust the tuning. If you have interference, you can select this and change this from whatever you want. When you do auto tune, it will find the channel for you that is the quietest. So right now it's set at 49, but it is obviously not quiet here in my garage. You can hear my headphones going crazy. Going back. So I have mine set at deep, but you can change it to deep motion V slow versus you can change that to slow, medium, fast. I have mine on slow. Actually, did I change that? Very slow. Yes, I had. So the V stands for very. I didn't know that. Learn something every day. So my motion is very slow. All right. So your next setting is your gain. For Culpeper, I was using 6. The ground was pretty moist because it rained pretty good there. The last couple days there, it rained. I think the day before, so the ground was pretty wet. So I didn't need a lot of gain. So I turned it down to 6. Audio is set for deep. Auto tune 41. Stabilizer. This is where your stabilizer can be a little lower, it can be a lot higher. It just depends on how you have your setup. I tend to run mine a little bit lower, but some people don't do that. Whoops. My signal is 17. My target volume is 8. I think that is your preference. Response is normal. My tracking is slow. My iron reject is set at 6. I don't like to turn this on too high because when you start doing that, you can crank it up to like 10. But when you do that, you start losing a lot of good targets. So 6 and 7 seem to be safe for me. So I leave mine typically at 6 unless I need a little more. I'll bump it up to 7. I don't usually go higher than that. And that's it. I mean, that's all you got back here. It seems a little complicated. I mean, a lot of the stuff I don't even know what it means. I've just taken notes from other people who were hunting down there, and these settings are what I ended up with on the last day of hunting DAV. Just because I've used this machine for a couple years now, it seems to work well in these settings down there. So I usually don't change much. Even up here in Maryland, when I do use it, I don't deviate too much from these settings. And they seem to work really good. I've used that in West Virginia. I've used it in Maryland here. I've used it in Pennsylvania. And it all seems to work pretty good. So I just stick with this. But like I said, if you have the 5000, you have a few more bells and whistles than you do here in the 4500, but they're pretty close to the same machine, being the same machine. You just have a few more extra settings you can mess around with. So Riley, that's it for the GPX 4500 setup. I hope this was enlightening. Maybe some of you will find this enlightening. I'm mainly doing this for my Patreon members since they asked for it. So here you go, Patreon friends. There is your video for the GPX 4500. If you have any questions, drop me a comment and or shoot me a message. All right, that's it for me. Have a great day. And if you get one of these machines, let me know. I'll help you any way I can. All right, that's it for me today. Have a great one. I'll talk to you later. See ya.